Hello, this is old Mr. Kent of MrKent.com, and in this video I'm running a practical test on I guess you could call it the mechanical setup that I've come up with to keep my iPhone from going dim as I fly my drone because of the heat here in Arizona. And if it works, then I'll put up a video showing what I did and how I did it and everything. But this is just a practical test to see if the mechanical part works. And if it lasts through the video and doesn't fall apart, then I'll run an actual test on a hot day. But I'm going to fly my Mini 2 and go down here. And if you look in the upper left-hand corner, they're pumping concrete to pour foundations over there. And I don't know if you've ever seen them pump concrete, but that would make a fun video to watch sometime. Actually, I've got a video on that somewhere in my history, my library, I guess you'd say. But anyway, that's what they're doing there. And then I'm going to go over to a construction site that we reviewed maybe in the last video, where they were just getting started. And then yesterday when we were driving by, they had earth movers driving back and forth and everything. And so I thought, well, I want to get a video of that. So I took off this morning. And by the way, in Arizona, I have to fly in the morning when it's cool, because it does get way too hot for the poor little old drone in the middle of the afternoon. So we're flying over to that. And while we're flying, I'll tell you a story. I'm running out of stories, but this would be a story of how a spoiled little bratty boy lived through a terminal disease. How's that sound? So I'll get started on it. Here's a picture of my very first Christmas, all right? Don't tell me that I wasn't spoiled, because I know for a fact that I was spoiled. But I really don't know who was spoiling me, whether it was my Aunt Chloe or my grandma. In the picture here, you can see from the left to the right, my Aunt Janice, and then my Aunt Chloe, and then my own mother, and then my grandma. And let's go back to the video here, and I'll explain more later. In one of my previous videos, I showed how they were beginning to fill this up with water, and there's a water line coming from the fire hydrant way off to the right in the housing development. So that's how they're filling it up. And then that contraption on the far side, they pump water out of there and put it into a spray truck or a spray tractor, however you want to call it, because what they're using here is more of a spray tractor than a spray truck. So that's the truck parks there, and then they start that up, and it pumps the water out of the pool and into the truck. Now, over here is where I saw them running back and forth with the earth movers, but naturally, the day I come up to make a video, all the earth movers are taking a break. I don't know what they were doing the other day, but you can see that they've got a lot of dirt chewed up. And there's a road grader down here making a better road for them to come and go from over on the highway. And then the area right out here in front of us is where I saw them working yesterday. But today, it's pretty blank. So we will take a look at some things here, and I will also tell you about either my Aunt Chloe, which was the second one from the left, or my grandma, which was the one clear on the right. One of those ladies spoiled me when I was real young. Now there's a huge tractor, and I don't know why they're plowing that up, unless they're just going to make it easier for the earth movers to scrape the earth. But I suppose in a future video, I'll have that answered for you. And then down there, just coming into view, is a spray. You got to call it a spray vehicle, because it's not a spray truck. But they fill that full of water, and it goes around. And that's why that dark area up there is dark, because they just got through spraying it. and then they got other guys running around doing other things, and so not much activity today. So let's go ahead and continue with the story. So I don't know who it was that spoiled me, but I know that I got really, really spoiled. And so I was born in Cheyenne, Wyoming in 1942 and during the war. And when the war was over in 1946, my folks moved from there to the Seattle area. And my dad went to work he was working for United Airlines, and they transferred him out. He was working in the radio shop that worked on aircraft radios. And so that was his job, and they transferred him out, and he was transferred to Boeing Field, which is still a good field. I've flown in and out of there a few times over in the Seattle area. But then when they built the SeaTac airport, well, then they transferred him out there. All right, so back to the story. So we got moved out to Washington State, and in this picture, if you take a look, this is a picture. I don't know all the details, but this is just before they took me to the hospital because I was getting really fat, and my round face, and then if you look at my hands, I was like, what was going on. So as I understand it, they took me to the hospital at the last minute, because if they'd have waited another day, I don't think I'd have lived. But I had a disease called nephrosis, and what it did is it caused my kidneys to stop working. So I didn't have any kidneys working, and of course then all the water builds up in your body, and it's poisonous water, and if something isn't done about it, then you die. Well, back then, they did not have dialysis machines, hadn't invented them yet. So there was no dialysis machine to hook me up to. They took me to Children's Hospital in Seattle, and they put me in what is called the terminal ward, because there was no hope for me. But they shot me 3 times a day in the behind with penicillin, and my grandma, who was the lady on the right, I know she was praying, maybe because she felt guilty about spoiling me, I'm not sure. But she was praying and praying and praying, but I was spoiled. I'll tell you some of the things that we did. First of all, because all the kids in there was like 4 or 5 kids in that room, and all of them were spoiled because they were going to die. And of course, sometimes I'd wake up, and my friend across the room in his bed, he was gone. And then they would, I'd say, where's whatever his name was? And they'd say, oh, he went home last night. And I thought, well, that's good, but they didn't mean here on earth. And so, they were waiting for me to die. But in the process, they did everything they could to make me happy in my last days, And I had a fairly large crib, and at the bottom of it were toys piled. And, of course, I'd throw them out on the floor and get mad, and the nurses would come put them back in. Now, I'm coming over here. Last time we flew over here in my last video, there were no cattle. Well, actually, there was 2 or 3 in a pen over there for the moms and their babies, but there were no cattle. And now, yesterday, I think it was, or the day before, we heard a lot of moo, moo, moo. And we thought, well, those cattle are back. Well, as it turns out, I don't know how they showed up again, because we didn't hear any trucks. Maybe they brought them in middle of the night or something, but there they are. So now I don't know what they were doing, why they moved them out, and why they brought them back, unless this is a different bunch. This could be a different bunch that they're getting ready to sell to McDonald's or something. Anyway, so I thought I'll come see if there really are cows there, or cattle. And sure enough, there are. So back to the story. I was in the hospital and spoiled rotten. In fact, I was so spoiled that at one point, I remember they came in and they put me in a straitjacket. There's a little lonely guy outside the fence, and there's another one up here you'll see pretty soon. He's coming into the right side there somewhere, and he got out, but he doesn't know how to get back in if you watch him. So anyway, they put me in this straitjacket and tied me to the rails on the side of my bed, so I couldn't move because I was throwing toys out on the floor. I was doing other things too, which I won't tell you about. Anyway, just bratty. Well, as it turns out, they didn't get me hooked up tight enough because I was able to get out of it and untie it. And then they had, back in the hospital I was in, is an old hospital, and they just about a foot from the ceiling, the wall, it was like the wall was there, and then it went into the wall, and there was a ledge there. And I don't know if it was for putting pictures up there or something, but it was way up by the ceiling. Well, so I was a mean little brat, so I took my straitjacket and threw it up so it got caught up on the ledge up there. Well, then, so a nurse had to come in with a ladder, and I remember watching her crawl up the ladder, waddle up the ladder, and getting my straitjacket down. Well, as it turns out, as spoiled as I was, or am, my grandma's prayers, I know my grandma was praying for me. And God was just good to me. So I got to see other kids go home, but finally the day came when I was well enough that I could go home, and I never will forget. They gave me dinner before I was in a wheelchair, and they put a tray on the wheelchair, and whatever was on the plate I don't remember, but to this day I don't like mashed potatoes without gravy. And they gave me mashed potatoes without gravy. So when nobody was looking, I stuffed them underneath the edge of the plate. Well, of course, then the nurse came over to pick up my plate and got her fingers in it. Then she got really mad and put it back on my plate, and I had to eat it sitting there, waiting for my parents to come to get me. So anyway, I'm alive today thanks to miracles. That's all I can say, because there was no way that they could do anything about children or adults with kidney failure. So anyway, I think I appreciate my grandma. Someday I'll take time to tell you all the things my grandma did to try to make me turn into a good person. And I wish I could say it worked, but anyway, I'm sure it did. I'm sure she helped a lot. So anyway, as I come into land, I take off from my pad because I need to get out where there's a lot of satellite reception. But then I just land over on the sidewalk because it's easier. I want to thank you for watching my videos. I really appreciate it. And I'll just keep telling the stories as long as you want to listen to them. I got a lot of stories. So thanks for watching, and God bless.